Welcome to the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. It's the morning show with Chris and Mo. I am Chris. That is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Monday, coming off of college football and other things in sports. Just ready to talk some sports, Chris.
Mo, what a great way to start the week. Short week for us. Obviously, Labor Day was yesterday, so everyone hopefully had a great, safe, happy, wonderful Labor Day with whoever you hang out with on your Labor Day. But like Mo said, Mo, football this week, my man. It's coming.
I'm excited. We've got college football already started. Big things happening in college football, and everybody's got their fantasy rosters ready. Everybody's ready to watch the real thing. There's so much going on, especially this coming weekend. It's going to be insane.
So Mo, I had a fantasy football draft that I missed. Like it's my fourth league. I completely forgot the draft was happening. I was doing family things. I was not a happy guy. It's a keeper league. So I got my keepers in like 3 days ago. So I was good to go there. I kept Jalen Waddle and I kept St. Brown from the Lions. So I was like, I'll keep a couple of receivers and I'll figure out the rest in the draft. So I totally missed the draft, right? So of course, Mo, no one texts me throughout the entire draft process being like, hey, Chris, the draft is happening. You're going to get nothing. Radio silence. So it's a complete auto draft. But it's a complete auto draft where I didn't even make a board, Mo. So it's just like best thing on the board. But listen to how this shook out, all right? I don't love it, but I don't hate it. So my quarterback is Deshaun Watson, which I got a competent quarterback, so I was okay with that. My running back is Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor. I wasn't happy about JT, but I was like, hey, value-wise, okay, all right, Chubb and JT. My tight end is Mark Andrews. So I was like, okay, that's a top tight end. My third wide receiver that I didn't keep, CeeDee Lamb. So I was like, oh, okay. And then on my bench, I got Pittman, Cooks, Robinson, the running back from Washington, Mooney, the receiver from Chicago, and then the rookie running back from Miami. I was like, okay. For having no draft board and the computer just doing it for me, Mo, I felt pretty blessed.
Wow, that's an amazing draft for an auto draft.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Well done, computer.
So I'm like, I hope I win this league based on auto draft, and I just ruffle some feathers, Mo. Speaking of ruffling feathers, Mo, let's start the show this morning with, it was all the talk this weekend. It was all the talk yesterday. It continues to be the talk today. And that is Coach Prime, baby. Coach Prime led Colorado to a victory over TCU. I didn't think it was going to happen, Mo. I didn't think I love Coach Prime. I like what they're doing with that team, but I just didn't see it happening. So not only did it happen, now of course you have the fallout of it happening, and it's a lot of noise, Mo. It's so much noise coming out of Colorado, right? So, Coach Prime, he does his press conference and he's kind of taking shots at people, but he's doing it in a wholesome, respectful, teaching young men a lesson kind of way, which I thought to myself, well done. Okay, I have no issue with that. But Mo, the national narrative right now with Colorado is that they're a contender. And while I love what they did against TCU, they also did a lot of things really poorly, like play defense. So, Mo, right. I have to ask you, coming out of their first victory of the season, where are you as far as what is this team going to do realistically? Because right now it's at an all-time high. Right now we're talking contending for the playoffs. Right now we're talking knocking off other ranked teams. Right now we're talking how Coach Prime has this team on the map. And it was a great win, Mo. It was a great win. I think it shocked a lot of people. But for me, the needle hasn't really moved. Like on any given Saturday in college football, you can see things like this, right? Sure. Like ranked teams fall all the time. I don't think TCU was, that upper echelon team coming into the season anyways. But Mo, has your needle moved more than mine? Where do you sit on Colorado right now?
So I love the impact of the game. It just reverberated throughout college football, right? It was huge. And I enjoyed it. It was a great win, great way to start off the Coach Prime era. But having said that, like you said, the high is so high. The high right now is watch out, Georgia, watch out, Alabama. We're coming for you. And I think that reality will taper off. What happens next week if they lose by 3 points to somebody in a great game, but they lose? Or what happens if they won game one in an electric way, but they still end up, I don't know, losing 3 out of the next 5 games? I guess what I'm saying is I loved it. And I do think in the bigger picture down the road, Colorado will make an impact, but I don't think they're a contender. I don't think, you know what, for them, make a bowl. If they make a bowl, that would be great, but I don't think that's a lock either. Like you pointed out something that's so obvious, like they don't play much defense. They made some timely plays, but they also got a couple of assists from some really bad decisions by TCU. But defensively, you can pretty much go up and down the field on them, and that's going to be a problem moving forward during the season. As great a motivator as he is, as great a coach as he may well become, I just think at some point your overall talent, it will affect your game. It will affect your season. They have some playmakers. They've got, as the young guys say, they've got some dogs out there, but I don't think they have enough dogs right now to contend.
And another thing, Mo, they didn't have a running game in game one either. And I know, say what you want about the running game in the NFL, there is still value for the running game in college football, and they didn't have much of one in their debut. And they got run all over on the defensive side. So if you look at it, take away the story, take away the emotions from it, take away the Coach Prime aspect, it was a poor defensive performance. It was a one-dimensional offense that plays were made, but it wasn't balanced by any means. And that just isn't a recipe for success over the long haul in a college football season. But Mo, aside from that, aside from people kind of shifting too far one way when it comes to Colorado, as much credit as I gave Dion at the start of this segment for not really rubbing, because let's be honest, he could have come out and been like, like he had every right to do that, because so many people said that they were going to get rolled by TCU, and it's a good story, and he is going to do positive things for the program, but not many people nationally gave them a chance to win this game. But he didn't come out, and he didn't take that tack, so good for Coach Prime. But he did come out when he was asked about one of his young players, Travis Hunter, who is all over, by the way, right now. This young man, like, he has his own segment on the Bleacher Report app. Like, he popped up like 3 weeks ago, just like talking college football. I was like, who gave like a 19-year-old, like, what is he doing? And I was like, oh, he plays for Colorado. Got it. So his visibility, his brand, if you will, has been popping up all over the place. He had a great game in their opener.
He did.
But then Coach Prime turned around when asked about his great game and said that he's going to be a number 1 pick when he comes out. And he didn't just say that he's a first-round talent. He didn't just say that he thinks he could go in the first round, because they clarified, Mo. They were like, well, wait a minute, Coach Prime. What do you mean by that? And he said, no, he is going to be a number 1 pick, like the first overall pick. He's that kind of kid. And I was like, all right, hang on. My guy doesn't come out. He's not eligible until 2025.
Right.
So we're a sneeze or two away from him even being eligible to be in the draft, Mo. Is Coach Prime getting caught up in the emotion of the feelings from that win? Well, I get the kid is talented.
He is.
And I get he likes to hype his team up. Mo, he's not going first overall.
I don't know about that. I honestly don't. I don't deny his talent and what he could continue to develop into. Will he be the number 1 pick in 2025? I have no idea, honestly. I don't know. But looking at what I see right now, I would be like, that's like pie in the sky, right? That's Coach Prime saying he believes it. And look, that can go a long way. If your coach believes in you and that festers throughout the locker room and into you, and gives you that kind of confidence, maybe that young man can go above and beyond what he is right now as a talent. And in 2025, maybe he is the best player in college football, but that's a lot of maybes. So I'm going to say he's a very good player. And I think he does have a chance to be a first-round pick, not the number 1 pick.
Gene's joining us in the comments this morning. Gene said they played a severely overrated TCU team who was way overranked because they were in the Natty. They are a 6-7 win team, and they have issues on both lines. Gene, you're spot on. Spot on, my guy. I believe that they were also ranked higher than they should have been. I think they were getting too much coming in, and you saw it. You saw what the product of that was. Freddie's dropping the fire emojis in the chat this morning.
What's up,
Rob's saying that now TCU is overrated. This is
no
funny,
argument,
right? So, Mo, the other thing that happened, and we're going to stay in the world of college football real quick, and we're actually going to bring on some friends right now. We're going to bring Jonathan onto the show. And, Mo, we are, well, I'll speak for myself. I am the pinnacle of professionalism here on the morning show. And although Jonathan has been laughing at the misfortune of the Yankees for weeks upon weeks
I know
now,
where this is going.
All right. And, I'm just saying Yankees have won 6 out of 7. They look like not a AAA baseball team anymore. We're almost back to 500 again. I feel like a Kansas City Royals fan. Like these are the things Royals fans say. We're almost back to 500. It's still a little jarring to me. But Mo, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy that takes shots at LSU or anything. Because I'm not. And we're going to talk about it. But I'm just saying, Mo, I'm not going to be that guy.
I can tell you're not.
All right, and I'm not going to smile. All right, I'm going to be professional. All right, so let's welcome JG to the show right now. What up, JG?
What's good, JG?
Morning, guys. Morning.
All right, JG, we're gonna start with LSU. So I obviously that's your team. That's what you bleed for. But I want you to take me both sides of the ball. Okay. So actually, let's back up one more step. JG, what is the benefit of putting a game like this on your schedule to start this season? Because doesn't the downside almost always outweigh the positives if you're LSU and you lose that game? It's great if you win it, right? When it's 2 top 10s or 2 top 12s or 2 top 15s early in the season, the idea is, and obviously both teams kind of sign on thinking, well, if we can win that game, we've kind of catapulted ourselves to start the season off because we got to win against a good ranked team. But someone's going to walk out losing that game, and now someone's going to be behind the 8 ball saying, not only did we have a loss on our record already, we lost to a ranked team already. So it is the first game of the season. It is early. So we have that thing in college football where early losses don't look nearly as bad as late losses. So I understand that. But JG, as an LSU fan, looking at it as objectively as you can, where do we stand this morning as far as LSU going forward for the rest of the season? What did you see that you think could be an issue long-term? Or is it just one of those things where 2 good teams played each other and someone had to lose?
Well, in regards to the schedule, LSU's done this every year. They've played top-level teams as with the season opener probably for the last 10 to 15 years. You can go back and just check. They've played Oregon on opening day. They played North Carolina and Atlanta once. TCU, they opened the season before. Florida State now back-to-back. They're going to do USC here pretty soon. So I mean, this is just a history of what LSU does at the beginning of the season. They want yes, you want to win games on it, but at the same time, LSU being a brand of football, they're a big name brand. They go play the big name teams every season on opening day because they want national TV. Everybody gets to watch them, regardless if you win or lose. In that aspect of, you're putting yourself out there, and that's important. It's important if you're a brand like LSU. In regards to the game itself, yeah, it's tough if you lose, especially if you lose this game. It is hard. You're relying now, so we have to rely on Florida State to continue to be good, because if they continue to be good, that loss isn't as bad. Then if they stay a top 5 team throughout the season, okay, you lost to a team that's a really good team, they're number 5, and they are top 5 throughout. They're going to compete for the opportunities to be in the playoff. That loss doesn't look as bad. If you continue winning, if you win on your part, that may help you, because if you need Florida State to continue winning, now Florida State tanks and they fall off a cliff like they've done over the last several years, Eric, just to let you know, remind you on that. That loss doesn't look as good anymore. And that's the risk. That is the risk and reward. If you lose to a team and they are really good and they stay really good, then it's not as bad of a loss. If they fall off and they're not as good, well, now you look like you just didn't belong in that game, and you don't belong in the top 25 yourself. You definitely don't belong in the conversation of a championship contender. So it's a risk, but there's also the reward if you win that game for yourself. That what it does, and there's times where we've seen that where LSU beats Oregon, where Tyrann Mathieu absolutely dominated that game years ago, and it absolutely catapulted them into the conversation of a national title contender. So the risk reward is always going to be there for it. The game itself, what was very disappointing to me and what was very noticeable to me was how we utilized Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins is the best pass rusher, the most athletic pass rusher in the country. He showed that last year as a freshman. He's already been drawing comparisons to Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys. And that's how they said, we're going to utilize him just like how the Cowboys utilize Parsons. I live in Dallas-Fort Worth. I am not a Cowboy fan, but I live in Dallas-Fort Worth. I have to watch a handful of games of Cowboys just because it's always on TV out here. How we utilize Harold Perkins is not even remotely close to how the Dallas Cowboys utilized Micah Parsons. It was not even remotely the same. And it looked like Perkins had no idea what he was doing, because that is not what he is. Not an off-the-ball linebacker. He is a on-the-line, rush the passer, go be athletic, go be the most athletic player on the field and be the most disruptive player on the field. And that's not how they used him. He was lost in coverage. He was lost as a spy, and that's not his game. And so that hurt because, again, what allowed you success in the first quarter was pressure. You were able to get some pressure on Jordan Travis. You were able to make him a little bit uncomfortable, make some decisions that he didn't want to make. You blitzed him here and there, threw an interception, should have thrown another interception on the 5-yard line, and you made him uncomfortable. Then we started playing a little bit more back off coverage and rushing only 4, and you gave him time. That didn't make any sense to me. If you pressured him and he was uncomfortable, you continue the pressure, especially if your secondary, your cornerbacks ideally, are getting burnt and they're getting beat on a regular basis on every play by Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, that's a dude. I was very impressed. I've seen a little bit about him, when he was at Michigan State. That was impressive. And he's going to be a top receiver in this draft in 2024 because of his ability, of his size and speed. And he took full advantage, and he bullied LSU's secondary on that night on Sunday. So that was where I looked at it as, you're undermanned in the secondary. You need to pressure the quarterback. You need to blitz. You need to be able to find ways to go make Jordan Travis uncomfortable, make decisions a little bit quicker. And they didn't do that. They made him comfortable. And that was a problem on the defensive side. The offensive side, they just didn't, their rhythm got off. And it didn't help. And a lot of LSU fans are blaming Jaden Daniels for – Jaden Daniels played great. He played great. He was not the problem. Drops by the receivers, that was a problem. Not being able to run the ball as effectively was a problem. Not being able to protect Jaden was a problem. There was a lot of issues that I saw from LSU this weekend that makes me very concerned, not going into Mississippi State or Auburn or Florida, but when we go play Alabama in November, that's going to be very concerning, because can we do the things that we're supposed to do, that we need to do to beat Alabama? I didn't see it Sunday night, and it's going to make me very concerned moving forward, just how the rest of the season, the first half of the season, lines up to make me feel very comfortable, or it's going to make me very nervous when we go play Alabama in November.
So Eric says, Chris, why push the panic button over one game? LSU could still upset Georgia, Alabama, Auburn. So come on, don't panic over one loss. And I agree. LSU could be perfectly fine from this. But JG, the margin of error has shrunk now. Because now you're looking at games where if you're undefeated going in to play Alabama, the narrative is completely different. Now it's two great teams going at each other. Of course, one is going to lose. These are probably both playoff teams. It is what it is. Now it could be a situation where if Alabama's undefeated, LSU still has one loss. Now it's, well, what does a two-loss LSU team look like? Now you're having that conversation, which isn't a conversation you want to have. You don't want to start talking about what does two losses look like as far as the playoff goes. If they lose somewhere else, like, are they still a playoff team? 3 losses, and you just don't want to have that conversation. So I'm not saying LSU's season is over, by any stretch of the imagination, but you just don't want to start having to look at it and be like, well, now we need to win every game, because if we lose another one, they're going to start saying 2 losses going to get us to the playoffs? We don't know. You just don't want to have that conversation.
No, it's not a panic. Let me put it this way. It's not a panic. Last season, we lost to Florida State. It was just based off of mistakes. A punt, 2 punt muffs and a missed extra point. Those were mistakes in the game. Sunday, we were bullied. And that's not what you notice from LSU football. LSU football are the bullies. LSU, Alabama is usually the bullies in college football. LSU got bullied on Sunday night by Florida State. That to me is a concern, because when you have a team that like LSU that gets just abused, okay, that's not a good sign. And that's what I say. It's not a panic. Am I throwing the season away? No, I'm not throwing the season away, because I still think we should be able to beat Mississippi State. We should be able to beat Ole Miss. We should be able to beat Auburn. We should beat Florida. We should be able to work our way back to at least be in contention for the SEC. Am I saying that we're a national title contender? No. I think we have a lot of things to cover before even putting ourselves back in the conversation of a national title contender. But the SEC is still an opportunity. We showed that last year, losing to Florida State, and you're able to beat Alabama, and you're able to put yourself in the conversation for the SEC championship game. I think that's still a likelihood. But there's things they have to clean up. There's things that you have to fix. There's things that you have to be able to strategically plan out and scheme. And they didn't do that against Florida State. They got out schemed. They got out coached. They had things that just didn't go their way because of what they tried to do. It wasn't the fact that it was mistakes. They got out schemed, and it looked like they put players in positions that weren't going to succeed. That's the problem for that. Again, Harold Perkins does not need to be an off-the-ball linebacker. He needs to be the one that goes and pressures the quarterback. He had 7.5 sacks last year. Put him in a position to go get 10 sacks as a rush linebacker. That's what he needs to be able to be doing. And especially if you know your cornerbacks are not as good as we've had in the past. They're just not – they're undermanned in secondary. They're not as good. You need to pressure the quarterback to give them opportunities to at least make time to cover. They didn't do that. So there's some schematic stuff that's going to be in question. I'm not throwing the season away after one game, but I will say I'm nervous because of what I saw from my team, not because of the game itself, not because of the result of the game. It's more of what I saw schematically, what I saw strategically. It's not what I thought it was going to be, not what they were telling us it was going to be either. And that's the thing about what it is we see it, and it didn't look like what we were told. So there's some concerns, especially like I said, for the Alabama game in November. There's going to be some concerns moving the rest of the season going into that.
Mo, with about 2 minutes left in that game, like minute 45, Florida State's driving the ball, and then they're up. Their game's over. They're up by 3 scores at that point, and they don't take their foot off the pedal, Mo. In fact, not only do they not take their foot off the pedal, their quarterback is still running the ball, putting his shoulder down, trying to barrel it into the end zone in a game that's already over. Mo, any issue with that? Any issue with it where, at that point, it clearly looked like Florida State was piling on a little bit at the end. Granted, LSU comes back the next drive, a minute and a half to go. They hit a deep ball. So they both end up scoring touchdowns, in a 3-score game in the last 2 minutes, where it was already kind of over. But Mo, if you're the head coach of Florida, you're up by 16, 17 points, under 2 minutes to go. You have the ball. I understand you're getting down in the red zone there. Are you doing that, Mo, or are you just kind of running it out, letting that clock wind down? What are you doing in that situation?
I'm actually going to just let the clock wind down. I'm not doing that, but I don't have a problem with it. Look, it is kind of running it up a little bit, but you know what? For Florida State, where they've been in recent years, it's a big deal for them to beat LSU. It matters. It's kind of like what JG said, too. Going forward, if Florida State is as good as they looked versus LSU throughout the season, and they're going to end up being a top 5 team, that's great for Florida State. It's also great for LSU. Like, LSU just became the biggest Florida State fans. They need these guys to be every bit as good as they look this past weekend, because then that loss isn't that bad a loss. Because, look, Alabama will lose, and some of the other top teams will lose. So I understand where this will all measure out in the bigger picture. But as I watched that game, Chris, it was funny. So they score, and then I thought, so LSU got angry and said, oh, so we're still playing. So they go back with the deep ball to let them know, like, well, we can still score too. You know what I mean? But it really was a case. I thought it was a little bit petty, but at the same time, Florida State hasn't been what Florida State was, right? Florida State hasn't been what they were for many, many years. So for them, this might have been like their Super Bowl, not a coming out party, but like their Super Bowl, like their national championship. This might be. We talked about this with Colorado. This is as high as the high can get. The question is, can Florida State sustain this high?
JG, obviously, as a fan of LSU, you see that and you're probably like, you're irked just because you're an LSU fan, so you don't want to see them scoring touchdowns in general. But take that out of it. If this wasn't against LSU, do you see Florida State having the same kind of mentality? Because it's a big game, LSU, they're trying to stake a claim to start their season. That's why we're doing it, or do you just have no issue with it across the board?
I don't have an issue across the board because college football is about style points. You have to be impressive. And 42 points or 40 plus points against LSU, regardless of what we think LSU is now, 40 plus points against LSU is very impressive. That's the same thing that putting 60 points up against an FCS team is still impressive. Style points matter in college football. If this was the NFL, different story because they don't do that in the NFL. And they have the unwritten rules where they don't do that. College football, there is no unwritten rules for it. You are going to impress people. So I don't have a problem with that they did against my Tigers. I don't. Stop them. I'm yelling at my defense, on my couch. I'm yelling, stop them. Don't let them. Don't let them score. If they're going to take shots on you, don't be pissed off at them for trying to do it. Be pissed off that they're still doing it.
Right.
That's how I view on that. I don't have a problem of Florida State trying to run the score up on them. By all means, do it if you can do it. And if if you're able to, I'm pissed off at my defense and I'm pissed off at my team for letting them do it.
Gentlemen, let's pivot real quick to a little Major League Baseball. This is JG's happy spot because his Braves are still the best team in Major League Baseball. Yeah. They're still destined probably to make it to the World Series and probably win the whole damn thing. So the smile comes back to JG's face. We're in happier times over here. JG, if I am Shohei Ohtani, I need to figure out what I don't know what my agent is doing. Why is my agent saying things about my surgery? Why is my agent saying things like surgery is inevitable? I don't care if it is inevitable. I don't care, JG, if I already have the surgery scheduled. If someone's going to talk about my surgery, it's going to be me, or I'm going to do it through my interpreter while I'm standing there. Why is my agent coming out saying things like surgery is inevitable? I don't know if it's going to be Tommy John or not. We're not going to. JG, what is going on? I just see the money being taken away from Ohtani every time someone in his circle speaks, because it seems like there's not an organized game plan with the focus of how can we still make Shohei the most money? Because every time something comes out about this, they're like, oh, it's going to make a little less now. What are we doing?
Well, speaking from experience, the agent, more times than not, I'm going to say more times than not, because sometimes the agent does speak out of turn. More times than not, the agent does speak in regards of the player by the permission of the player. So I will give the benefit of the doubt right now that Shohei knew the agent was going to speak upon the surgery part. And you have to answer questions. You still have to answer the questions right now about that anyway, because that's going on. That's conversations behind, at the water cooler by these teams right now. Like they're all asking the questions as far as getting a little bit you have 1 month of the season. Angels are not making the playoffs. The teams that are going to be interested in other than the Dodgers, they're a playoff team. Mets not a playoff team. Yankees not a playoff team. Mariners are in the race right now. But there's teams that are still asking the questions as far as that are interested, that are either out of playoffs and go, what is the status at least? They can't get a lot of information on it, but they're going to ask, what is the status of his health going into the offseason? Is surgery like what they're going everything but what the surgery is? That is strategic in this conversation because Tommy John itself, obviously, he's not pitching in 2024. If it's not Tommy John, which I'm trying to wrap my head on what it could be, but again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know what else it could be other than Tommy John if it's a UCL injury. You're putting yourself out there to say that there's a chance. That's what he stopped short of saying it's a Tommy John surgery, saying that there could be a chance he pitches in 2024. Do I think that's likely? No, I don't. Does it hurt him in the value-wise? Yes, it does. Because, again, as I said to you guys last week, he's the unicorn. He's able to pitch and hit and do it very well. How much is this going to hurt him in the long run as a pitcher? Yet to be determined. But the strategic plan by the agent was, look, yes, we already know. Everybody knew surgery was going to happen. All right. So instead of the speculation of it and wondering when when is the surgery going to happen, I think the surgery should have already happened. What are you gaining right now for Shohei? There's nothing else you're going to gain out of this. You're already going to get $300 million minimum. You're going to be the MVP. You don't need the last month of the season. There's nobody in the American League that's going to challenge you for the MVP. What else you got to prove right now? I would have thought I've already done the surgery and planned out for 2024 from there and be ready, because at that point he could be ready at least by April, May. If it's not Tommy John, by May he could be ready to go. Now you're pushing it to have surgery in November. May turns into June, maybe July if it's not Tommy John. Obviously, again, if it's Tommy John, it is going to be July that we see Shohei Ohtani, at least as a hitter, because that's what we saw with Bryce Harper. He had it in the off. He had it a little bit earlier in the season last year, or a little bit later in the season, not in the off season. He came back in June. I don't understand the weight. That's the only thing about it is. But the agent answered the question that everybody knew was coming, just not saying what it was. And again, that's part of the strategic plan, because that allows to the conversation to be a pitcher for Shohei. Whereas the teams would be like, okay, if it's not Tommy John, maybe we're comfortable still for him to be a pitcher. If it's a second Tommy John, there's going to be a lot of teams going to be a little bit hesitant to say, yeah, we're going to commit to you to be a pitcher. We're going to commit $500 million to you to be a hitter and pitcher. That's a little bit uneasy. Whereas say, yeah, surgery's coming, not Tommy John. We're not going to say that yet, just to try to keep the interest of pitching in there still.
But isn't that all semantics? Because no one's gonna sign him to a deal until they know what surgery he's having. I mean, it's not going to be a world where he's like, all right, give me your offers. I'm going to sign. Then I'll tell you the surgery. No, they're going to know the full story before any deal is signed. So aren't we just like playing games for no reason now?
100%. Yeah. And that's the job of the agent, though. That is you're giving answers without giving answers. It's the politics of the sport. Again, that's why agents could be great politicians if they really wanted to go down that road. They're answering questions without actually answering the question. Yeah. Surgery's inevitable. Well, what kind of surgery? Oh, we're not going to tell you that. We're not gonna, you'll find out. You'll find out later on. But we're not going to tell you right now. That's their job, is to make sure that they're maximizing the value of the player. And in doing so right now, again, you answered the question, surgery is surgery going to happen? Well, yeah, surgery is going to happen. Okay. Is it Tommy John? Maybe. Okay, so what else could it be? It could be something else. Okay, so how do we value you? Oh, he's still a great ball player. So you're going to value him what you think that he should be valued. And that's what the agent's trying to do. You're still maximizing the value of what Shohei Ohtani is. Shohei Ohtani is an MVP no matter what. All right, that you don't take away the hitting side of it. He could base off his stats. He's still MVP. Again, there's nobody. There's nobody in the American League that is close to his statistics, hitting wise, that can challenge him just on hitting alone for an MVP. The cycle of him being the MVP, it does include what he does as a pitcher too. But that's the interesting part, is he's not in contention for a Cy Young though. So you're looking at it as far as the full spectrum of pitcher and hitter, why he's a clear-cut favorite as MVP. But if you take the pitching side away and say, who in the American League is challenging him for the MVP? Well, there's nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, there really isn't. You can have conversations of guys. But, I mean, again, to go to the best team in baseball, the Orioles don't have anybody that you can sit there and say, well, he's an MVP. He's an MVP. You have got Adley Rutschman could get some votes, but he's not going to steal it away from Ohtani. Tampa Bay doesn't have anybody. They're the second best team in the American League. Texas Rangers Corey Seager may get some votes, but not enough to really supplant the Angels. Astros, same thing. There's nobody on the Astros that you could. So it's a clear cut that he's an MVP based off of just what he does offensively. So you're going to maximize the value just off of him as a hitter. What makes him special is being able to do both. They're trying to do what they can to keep the pitching side around. And teams are going to be hesitant on that, but they're going to do everything they can. The agent and Ohtani and his people are going to do everything they can to keep him to be a pitcher because they know that is how he will max out on a new contract this offseason.
And JG, before we get you out of here, real quick, Cody Bellinger talk popped up this weekend. Apparently, 4 teams are going to be pretty aggressive in their pursuit of Cody Bellinger, who is going to be a free agent when the season comes to an end. Those teams are the Cubs, the Yankees, the Giants, and the Padres. Obviously, he is with the Cubs currently. JG, about 60 seconds here before we get you out of here. Where do you foresee Cody Bellinger going next season, and what would be the best fit for him?
The best fit for him is staying in Chicago. He's very comfortable. That's the biggest part. He was in a big market in LA, a little bit more relaxed, but it was still a big market. He had his highs. He did great, but then he had his moments where things started crumbling around him, and the pressure got to him. And being MVP, the pressure got to him. Does he not think that's going to be worse in New York? So again, looking at it as far as where is he going to be comfortable in his career? It's Chicago. And I think he fits in with the crowd of that city. He fits in with the team very well. It is a relaxed area, but it's also a very baseball centric area that you're focused solely on Chicago Cubs baseball. I think Chicago's where he needs to stay at. The money side, if he wants to look at it and say the money side, sure. Yeah, the money side is going to be there. You go to New York, that's the case for him if they're going to go down that road. But I think what better suits him is the friendly confines of Wrigley Field, being on the north side with the Chicago Cubs. I think that's a better fit and a better and more relaxed environment to keep him on the trajectory that he has done so far this season, resurrecting his career.
We got Gene in the chat taking shots here, a Dodger fan, saying that Cubs fans are greater than Dodgers fans. I'm not going to touch that. I'll leave that alone. Dodger fan, if you want to find Gene wire to wire, he's your guy. You can go there and talk to Gene about whether or not you are as great as Cub fans. But JG, thank you so much for hopping on this morning. We really do appreciate it. We just love having you here.
Appreciate the knowledge, JG.
As always, guys, love doing this with y'all in the mornings. It's always a lot of fun. Appreciate the time with y'all.
All right, we'll see you next time, JG. Well, always a pleasure to have JG here on the show with us, talking baseball. I know he's a little sad about the LSU Tigers. I understand it. But Mo, I agree with everything we said about LSU. The season's not over.
Far from over.
Far from over, right? I mean, there's still time. There is still time. Now, Clemson, on the other hand, whoo, I don't know, Mo. That's right. That's all I can do. That's all I can do is sigh when it comes to Clemson because I don't know. But Mo, let's pivot. Over the weekend, it was announced officially that AEW has released CM Punk from his contract. He is no longer gainfully employed by AEW, and it was a termination with cause. He was involved in another backstage incident. Apparently, sources say that he did not cause it, but he certainly played a hand in finishing it. But what I found interesting here was that Tony Khan comes out, and I have my own issues with Tony Khan, and I'm not going to let that kind of sway my judgment here. But Tony Khan comes out, and he basically says that I have never felt unsafe in a working environment before this incident took place. And because of what I personally felt for my safety and what I felt for the safety of others who were around this incident, a lot of that is what went into this decision. And I'm not going to sit here and defend CM Punk because obviously he has a myriad of issues. But Mo, I am going to say this. You run a professional wrestling business. You are probably the second biggest in the world right now. Maybe not in the world, definitely in the United States, right? Behind WWE.
Sure. In the United States.
This happens backstage. Emotions get high. People have issues with each other. There are backstage politics. And Tony, no offense, you don't help the situation any. You run the company. You're the face of the company. You're also the head of creative, and you don't have the swagger that a Vince McMahon has, because Vince isn't seen, hanging out publicly with his wrestlers, being all buddy-buddy with him. Vince, for all his faults in the world, Mo, and there's plenty of them, everyone knows, even if you're friends with Vince, business comes first. And if you piss him off, or you do something he doesn't like, or you don't agree with him, Vince is still going to side with Vince. And Tony has proven that's not the case. Tony has proven that if you're buddy-buddy with him and he likes you, then you might get a little bit of preferential treatment. You might get a more of a friendship relationship than a boss relationship. So Mo, he makes this statement and he says, I felt unsafe. I've never felt this unsafe. What did you think was going to happen when you created a wrestling promotion? You didn't think that there were going to be issues with the boys in the back. You didn't think that tensions were going to get high every now and then, and there might be some pushing and some shoving. Because don't act like, and the reason this bothers me so much, Mo, is and I know he didn't say this, and I know I'm reading between the lines, but when you hear you didn't feel safe, what does that mean? Does that mean you felt like your life was being threatened? Does that mean you felt like you were going to be the target of physical? It had nothing to do with you, Tony. Now, I would say it had to do with you because you've created this sort of environment where this stuff happens over and over and over again in your company. But as far as you feeling unsafe to a point where you feel like you had to do something about it, where you had to come out and make this grandiose statement as to why you had to fire one of your employees with cause, for me, that just doesn't sit right. If you want to come out and you want to say, listen, we've had too many backstage altercations, he's not getting along with people, it's no longer good for business, it's for the morale of our roster, we're putting the group ahead of the one, I would have no issue with any of those things, because those things all make sense. When you got one guy constantly causing issues, picking fights, whether he starts them or he finishes them, when you take that stance and you're like, this isn't just good for business anymore, I'm good with that, Mo. But when you want to come out here and tell me that basically your life was in danger or your safety was in danger, like, in my opinion, stop it. Stop it. Am I wrong? Like, I don't know. Like, it just sat wrong with me. My man, you are muted.
The thing about Tony Khan to me is he's kind of like a wrestling character, right? He wants to be a face, but if you see how he runs his company, he's really a heel. He's a heel. He's a jerk. You know, it's no secret that CM Punk, he runs hot naturally. That's who he is as a person, as a man, as a performer, and it doesn't take much to send him over the edge. And I think that Tony Khan is petty enough, conniving enough to where he would go out of his way to do that and then scream wolf, right? Like cry like, I can't believe he came at me, or there was some kind of violent gesture or anything of the sort. My problem with Tony Khan is he's just not genuine. He's trying really hard to be a junior Vince McMahon, and he's not a Vince McMahon. He's not even a Shane McMahon. I just think, like you said, it's disingenuous to run a wrestling company knowing all that goes on. The testosterone level is like times 10. The emotions. Oh, I'm losing tonight. That's how we're playing it. But you told me you had me a script earlier and it said that I was going to get put over. What happened? A lot of things happened. The backstage politics are insane. With all that in the backdrop, you're shocked that something like this could occur. It can't be the first time. There's no way in the history of wrestling this is the first time there was some kind of fight or altercation. It comes with the business. It's a big part of the business. Even though we don't get to see that, people that have been fans of wrestling know that it's not unusual for someone's temper to run hot and there becomes some kind of physical altercation. I think Tony Khan is a showman, but he's just not a very good showman.
speaking of that, Mo, earlier last week, WWE announced a partnership with the NFL. All 32 NFL teams now have custom WWE team-inspired championship belts. So all 32 teams have a belt. They put the 32 belts up on the website, and then quickly it went from 32 to 31. And the Jacksonville Jaguars belt disappeared. And the initial thought was, oh, the belt just sold out. They're probably didn't make a lot of them. So for whatever reason, the Jacksonville fan base just ate up the championship belt. But Mo, we come to find out that's not the reason. It has to do with Tony Khan. Obviously, his dad owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Tony is a major admin type person with the Jaguars, and he couldn't have it that his NFL team had a belt made by WWE. So I don't know the exact workings of it, but the plug was pulled, and there no longer is a Jacksonville Jaguars WWE championship belt. Mo, I get it. Like, if I have the ego, like Vince McMahon would have done the exact same thing. Sure. Like, that's totally a Vince McMahon move. Egotistical, power hungry, that aligns with Vince's persona, his character, his actual personality. How can Tony Khan call himself a businessman? And he's savvy, and he's engaged with what happens in 2023, and he's a new kind of suave. And then you're going to come out and have this emotional reaction?
Yeah, I don't understand. So I try to understand it, but like you said, if you're a businessman, that WWE belt, that's good for business. Even though I know that's your competition, let's be honest. There's the WWE that sits way up, and then your levels below, they're not your direct competition. They definitely don't see you as their direct competition. But you also are involved in another business, the business of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the WWE, the association with that only props up the Jaguars. That's good for that business. So you're not being a good businessman by being petty. Petty doesn't put money in your pocket.
And Anthony in the chat said, can he do an AEW belt for Jacksonville? Well, yeah, he could if the NFL agrees to give the licensing to AEW to do that.
That's not going to happen.
Exactly. And if I'm the NFL, I'm like, well, no, we're not going to tick off WWE, who's doing 31 belts for us.
Right.
Who every time, there's a Super Bowl, they're giving belts to our teams. They're welcoming our guys to their shows when we're in their cities, putting them on TV. We're not going to damage that relationship so you can make one belt for one team because you couldn't handle your dad's football team being right. It sounds dumb when I'm saying it to you. Like, so no. So because Tony's petty, the Jacksonville Jaguar fan, I'm sorry, you don't get a championship belt for your team unless you want to go out of pocket and spend a couple thousand and have one custom made. But you can't have nice things like everyone else does.
That's why we can't have nice things. And there's another thing. What about the fan base, bro? Did you even think about your fan base? I never mind the bit, but your fan base. They're the only fan base. They're beltless. What's that about?
Right, exactly. At this time, we're welcome. They're beltless. At this time, let's welcome Brett onto the show. Brett, how's it going this morning, sir?
It's going good. It's going good. How are you guys today?
Welcome, Brett. Welcome.
Brett, don't worry. You are not beltless. You can go get a Green Bay Packers belt right now if you wanted to.
I will probably end up getting one at some point.
See, but if you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, not happening for you. But Brett, we are so happy that you're here today, and we're going to pivot to basketball. And Team USA, I don't want to say finally loses because I didn't want them to lose. But Mo, I will say this: Team USA finally got burned. We've talked about this for a couple weeks now, about some of the coaching decisions, about their lineup, about their size, about their style of game. And Mo, you and I have said there's going to come a point where you play with fire, you get burned, and that's what happened. Mo, what were your takeaways from the loss? Is it as simple as they're just too damn small?
So I don't think it's just that. That's a big part of it, right? Because they're just getting bullied in the paint. They're getting bullied on the boards. But I would also like to remind everybody that when you watch European basketball or the way the game is played, yes, it's a skilled game, but it's a much more physical game. They play basketball very similar, very or not exactly like, but it's as close to, as much as we argue and debate, it's as close to 90s basketball as you're going to get. They allow a lot more grabbing, a lot more pushing. Guys, when they try to cut, they redirect them. They can physically redirect them. When you watch like what Lithuania did against Team USA, a lot of guys watch when guys play defense once their guy catches the ball. Lithuania off the ball, they were manhandling Team USA players. Like they were being extra physical. And Team USA was looking at the refs like, what's going on? And the refs was looking back at them like, we don't call the ticky-tack stuff. Keep playing. Play ball. Now, if you're getting into the nuance of the game, Team USA, the last 3 games, not just this game, the last 3 games, they've been iso ball centric. Way too much watching one guy try to make something happen. There's not a lot of ball movement. The ball sticks way too often. And when you look at what Lithuania did, yes, they made threes, but when they didn't make shots, they were grabbing boards. They were dominant on the boards. They were just too big and too physical for them. And we saw this coming, right? Like, they easily could have lost either of the previous 2 games, right? We would agree with that. They had to come back and they had to rely on Ant-Man being next level and carrying them over. He actually played well against Lithuania, but if you're going to rely on an individual talent every game, at some point you're going to get burnt. You're going to need more production from Bobby Portis. You're going to need a better game on both ends of the floor from Jaren Jackson Jr., who, if you've been watching, he's been getting manhandled the last 3 games. He's been getting manhandled. What they're showing you is he's a power forward trying to get away with playing center, and he's not a center. And they're showing him he's not a center. He's too small. I watched Valanciunas. Valanciunas looked like Shaq. He looked like Shaq in there. And Valanciunas can barely jump over a phone book. So their size is a problem. But you brought up something that I think is very interesting. I feel like Steve Kerr is reaching with each rotation. Like he still, even right now, doesn't have a set rotation. He hasn't found that group that he puts on the floor and goes, these are my guys. I trust these 5 guys to close out games. They're still searching for that unit. And I think going forward, the idea that they're going to win the championships, which we think they are, we do. I don't think it's a lock, because what's not going to change is they're not going to get any bigger. These European teams, these guys are grown men. These guys have played together 8-10 years. Like, they've got chemistry, and they're not like 22 and 21. These guys are a little bit older, 28, 30. These are veterans. These are professionals. And because of the way the game is played and because of how they play, it's a style that this young USA team, they're not used to. Remember, this is a very good USA team, but I think we can all agree this is not the best team the USA could put out there.
And gentlemen, let's not forget, beating Team USA is a big deal to other countries. So Lithuania beating Team USA because we do this to ourselves, right? We say that we are the best basketball players in the world playing in the NBA. I wouldn't argue with that, but at the same time, we're not putting the best basketball players in the world into this tournament. But it doesn't matter. That's semantics, right? The rest of the world looks at it and says, here comes Team USA. We get everyone's best shot every time. And that's just the name of the game. But Brett, my question to you is this. So much hate for Steve Kerr after that loss. People, and with the Steve Kerr hate comes the Warriors hate. People saying that it looks like Kerr's coaching a team without Steph out there. Oh, look, it's the Warriors. Get down by 21. Hope you can come back in the end. So a lot of Kerr hate coming out of this loss. Is it all on Steve Kerr? Does the success of this team solely ride on the coaching decisions of Kerr moving forward?
I think one of the biggest takeaways that happened, it's going to rely, a lot of this is going to rely on Jaren Jackson not fouling out of the game. Lithuania, they did something different that a lot of teams didn't do. They didn't allow Team USA to hide Jaren Jackson on the weak side and be a weak side help protector. They're like, we're going to go right into your chest. We're going to put Valanciunas in the post on you. We're going to get you directly involved in the action. What happened? He fouled out in 15 minutes. So now you're looking at a team with a size issue that just got smaller. And now you're playing Walker Kessler, who at times just doesn't look like he's ready for a stage that big. And now you have all sorts of problems. I think Kerr's rotations do look whack at times. I do think some of it might be a coaching issue. But I just think you're looking at a situation where Jaren Jackson's got to avoid foul trouble. He's got to stay in the game because if he goes out, if he gets himself fouled out like he did against Lithuania, they're just going to out-bully us. They out-rebounded us 42 to 27. So I think it's just a lot of it's just a size issue, and a lot of these guys also might not necessarily are used to playing with each other. They're used to playing not team ball like Golden State does, a lot of these guys, and I think it's just more of a learning curve.
So to piggyback off of what Brett said also, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great defender, but he's at his very best as a weak side defender. He's not nearly the defender when it's his man that's getting the ball and he's got to actually defend the post straight up. He's so much more effective when he can show, recover, and cover a lot more ground. I thought Lithuania's strategy of going right at him, like Brett said, that negated his athleticism, it negated his quickness, and he got into foul trouble. Also, if you guys watch the game, look, and it pains me to say this, I'm a Laker fan, it's not a secret. Lithuania, they went Austin Reeves hunting. They went Austin Reeves hunting. They put Austin Reeves in almost every action, and then they singled him out, and he got eaten alive every time. Like they made a point to go right after Austin Reeves to the point where Steve Kerr had to take him out of the game because he was getting owned.
Gentlemen, let me get a quick stat for you. I saw this over the weekend, and I was like, really? Jason Kidd, 46-0 in world play for Team USA. 46-0.
J Kidd's a winner.
Right? How about that?
That's
all right, gentlemen. We are going to close out the show today doing a rapid fire because every day in the morning show, Mo and I are going to be doing something that has to do with the NFL season, and we are going to do some rapid fire win totals, over-unders. I'm going to give them to you real quick, and you're just going to give me a real quick over-under based on what I give you, and we're going to go alphabetical order because why the heck not? So we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. Mo, 3.5 wins, over-under.
Under. I'm going under. That seems like a lock that they would get 3 wins, but I don't think so. I don't think it's a lock.
Brett?
Yeah, I'm going to go under too. I don't have any faith in this team.
No, 0. Brett, Atlanta Falcons, 8.5 wins.
Under. That's asking a lot to put a lot of faith into Desmond Ridder, and I'm just not there yet, so I'm going to go under.
I would actually argue that even if Ridder played well, I still think they're a below 500 team.
Baltimore Ravens, Mo, 10.5 wins.
I'll take over. I think overall, I'm expecting the Ravens to be right back in the picture. I'm actually more concerned about the defense than I am the offense. I think Lamar is going to be fine. My only concern is this going to be new Lamar that everybody keeps promising us, or this going to be 1,000-yard running back Lamar, which I, as a fan of the Ravens, I wouldn't want that, or as a fan of the NFL in general, because that makes me think Lamar is going to miss more time. So hopefully this is Lamar learning how to slide.
10.5, Brett, 10.5.
I'll go over too. The Ravens, every year, they're a regular season team. It's all going to fall apart in the playoffs, but I still think that they get over 10.5.
Brett, Buffalo Bills, 10.5.
Oh, man. You know what? Well, the first time I did this, I went over. I'm going to actually change it. I'm going to go under. I think they're going to hit 9 wins this year.
I'm going under as well. I just think that they had that peak, and it feels like they're kind of regressing.
7.5 wins for the Carolina Panthers, Mo.
Ooh.
I know, that's a good one.
That is I think that's the best one. You know what? I'm going to go over. I'm going to trust that the young man, Bryce Young, will pick it up and more or less turn his season. He's going to struggle like all rookies, but I got faith in him, and they have enough talent around him. I'm going to go over.
I'll take the under. I think that it really all comes down to Bryce Young, but I also think an X factor in this is you have one of your leading edge rushers, Brian Burns, is unhappy, looking to get out. So I think it's going to come down to Young and what happens with Burns.
Brett, Justin Fields is 5-20 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. The Bears are at 7.5 wins for their over/under this season. What do you think?
I really want to say over. I really do. I really don't trust Matt Eberflus or that coaching staff to put anybody in a position to succeed is the issue. So I'm going to take the under, and it's all the coaching staff on this one.
I'm taking the under too. Everybody's really high on Justin Fields, and I am too, but they're talking about him like he's about to make this leap to where he's like a Pro Bowler, and he's going to throw for 4,000 yards and run for 1,000 yards, and it's a major leap, and I think he's going to improve, but he's not going to make that dynamic a leap.
Mo, that's what top 5 rushing quarterbacks all time do. They do great. I don't know.
Totally wrong. My bad.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about over there. Mo, Cincinnati Bengals over under 10.5 wins.
Well, if Joe Burrow is healthy, yes. I'll make it that simple. If Joe Burrow is healthy, over.
Agreed. If Burrow's healthy, they could probably sleepwalk to 11 wins.
Brett, Cleveland Browns 9.5 wins.
That's a good one too. That's actually another good one to me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. This one's tough. I think I'm going to go over. I think if Deshaun Watson bounces back, pair him with the strong run game and Nick Chubb, and then you have Amari Cooper defense you can build around Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett. I think they have the pieces to be a 10-win team or an 11-win team. Really do.
I'm going to stand at 9 wins. I don't think they go over. I don't think they go over. Not in that division.
I have a new liking for Deshaun Watson, and they're on my 4th fantasy foot. I know
why. Yeah,
I'm all aboard now. I need them to go over. I need stats. I 3 days ago, I talked a lot of crap about Deshaun Watson. 50% passing percentage, couldn't throw against second and third. I am on the Deshaun train right now.
So see, now you're talking like you want to see Deshaun from the Texans.
I need that 33-7. I need that Watson. Mo, the Dallas Cowboys 10.5 wins.
Oh, I'm going over. Look, we can debate about the quarterback and all the other things and the drama that comes with Dallas, but talent on both sides of the ball, that's an 11-win team easy.
Oh man, the number was 10.5.
10.5, Brett.
10.5. I think they hit 10. I think they just miss. I think Mike McCarthy led teams are undisciplined, and I think going up against the AFC East this year, paired with that division, I think it's going to cost them a couple extra games this year.
Brett, Denver Broncos 8.5.
I really want to say they hit 8 wins. I don't see them going any higher than that. There's not really a run game. There's hardly any healthy receivers, I think, in the entirety of Denver at this point. So I'm going to go under.
I want Russell Wilson to have a return to where he was to prominence, but like Brett said, and you know this already, all their best receivers are hurt. Their receiving room looks like nothing but a medical ward right now, and it just screams, "Get Mike Evans, get Mike Evans." But right now, I think they're a 500 team at best.
Mo, the Detroit Lions 9.5 wins.
I'm going over. They've built this squad right. They've drafted well. I really like what they did on both sides of the ball, so I'm definitely going over.
Yeah, I'll go over as well. I have Detroit as my pick to win the division, so I'll go over.
Brett, your Green Bay Packers 7.5 wins.
I think they can hit 8. I think Jordan Love. I think he's much farther along than people are going to expect. I think the X factor with that team is can the receivers stay healthy because the depth behind them is just atrocious. So it'll be interesting, but we have one of the best running back duos in the league paired with a top 10 defense, and Jordan Love's farther along than expected. I could see this being an 8 to 9 win team.
I'm going over as well. people forget that they have two versatile running backs. They have a very good defense. Jordan Love only needs to be solid for them to be a competitive team, and I think he will be solid. So I'm going over.
Mo, this line has moved since the start of the preseason. The Houston Texans over under 6.5 wins.
Wow, it has moved. You know what? I'll go over. I'll give them more than 6 wins. I'll go over. I think in that division, I don't think that division is as locked up as people would have you believe. I understand why the Jags are favored, but I'll go over.
I think they're going to be a 5-win team. I'll take the under on them.
Brutal.
Brett, another line that has moved is the line for the Indianapolis Colts. Over under 6.5 wins for the Colts.
They're going way under, and Anthony Richardson's having one of the worst rookie seasons since Peyton Manning.
I think they're going under because we all knew coming in Richardson might have the highest peak for the rookies quarterbacks, but he's also the rawest talent. And they're not helping him right now with all the drama around him. So they're not setting the young man up for success. I'm definitely going under.
Mo, how about the beltless Jacksonville Jaguars over under 9.5 wins?
I'm going to go over. I think it's a 10-win team at least. I trust Sunshine. I like the players that they have around him. Travis Etienne is nice. The receiving core is solid. I'm going to go over.
Man, how brutal for Jacksonville. They can't even get a championship off WWE Shop. That's rough for them. I'm going to go over. I think with the addition of Calvin Ridley, this is just going to put them over the top. I think they win at least. I think they're going to win 11 games this year.
Gentlemen, I'm going to say this right now, and this you might judge me for this. This might be a new level of petty. I hope the Jacksonville Jaguars win the Super Bowl, and WWE doesn't give them a belt. That's all I'm saying. Because you set yourself up for that. Why would they? Why? Come on. All right, Brett, Kansas City Chiefs, 11.5 wins, over under.
I'll say I think they hit 12. I think they're going to hit over.
You know what? I'm going to stand on the 11 wins. I'm concerned. Look, I think we believe in Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. The defense is a solid middle of the road defense, and your best defensive player doesn't plan on showing up anytime soon. And as great as Patrick Mahomes is and what he did in the Super Bowl, if somebody in that receiving core doesn't stand out other than Travis Kelce, I think they're going to have some struggles. I think that's a concern. So I think I'll stand at 11.
Mo, another line that for some reason has come up a little bit, must be because Josh Jacobs is back with the team now. But we have the Las Vegas Raiders at 6.5, over under.
Yeah, I'm still going under.
Right? How are they going to win 7 games?
Right, I'm going under.
Brett?
Oh, I'm going to take under too. I feel like they'll get to like 6 wins and then lose their chance at the 7th in the most Raider way possible.
Brett, how about the Chargers? 9.5 wins.
Oh man, I'm going to go with 9. I'm going to go slightly under. I think that team is just. I think that team is just so bad at stopping the run and so poorly coached that I think it's just going to lead to they're going to be slightly disappointing to most fans.
I'm going to show Justin Herbert some love, even though I'm not his biggest fan. I know he's talented. I'm going to say they win 10 games. I'm going to go over.
Mo, how about the Rams? 6.5 wins.
I'm going under. I'm going under. Like, come on.
Better be careful. Stafford's going to put you in his yearbook. I'm going to go.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm going to go under as well. So I guess I just turned a picture next to you.
Brett, the Miami Dolphins, 9.5 wins.
I think they go over. If Tua and Jalen Waddle stay healthy, I think that offense is just way too explosive. And that defense, you're going to get Jalen Ramsey back in the middle of the year for a stretch run. Yeah, I think that's easily a 10-11 win team.
I'm going over. He's right. Look, this is the easiest one. This really is basic. If Tua can stay upright, if he learns how to throw the ball away, get rid of it, live to play another down, they're going to be 11, maybe even a 12-win team. That's how explosive they are on offense. That's how balanced they are on defense.
Minnesota Vikings, Mo, 8.5 wins.
You know what? I'm gonna go over. I know we want to kill Cousins, but all I'm telling you is he's built for the regular season for sure. They're gonna go. I think they're still gonna go over, and he's gonna have another big season.
I think they're gonna go over. I think Cousins is gonna be really good, like he normally is. I think what's gonna kill the Vikings is their defense. It just doesn't look good. They were really bad and old last year, and they just haven't gotten any better. So.
Brett, how about the New England Patriots? 6.5 wins.
Oh, I hate betting against Bill Belichick, but
that's actually another good one.
I'm gonna go under. I don't think that's a very good football team. I think it's just gonna be a lot of hospital balls over the middle, and they're just gonna run it. But as soon as they get down, they're not gonna be able to come back.
I'm gonna go over. Look, I don't know if they're gonna make the playoffs, but I'll go over because it is a stout defense. They do have, I like the running back tandem, and they're not asking Mac Jones to be Patrick Mahomes. They're asking him to be solid, to be efficient. Don't turn the ball over. They're going to be a smash mouth team. They're not going to score a lot of points, but you're not going to score a lot of points on them. So I'm going to go over.
Mo, the New Orleans Saints at 9.5 wins.
It better be over. It better be over, or two people, the quarterback and the head coach, they better be renting. Okay, if things don't go well, they better be renting.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. They're a 10-win team. Half of that's just the poor quality of their division, so I'm gonna go over.
Brett, the New York Giants, 7.5 wins.
I'm gonna go under. I really don't believe in the Giants' talent. I don't believe in Darren Waller, and I don't think Saquon can shoulder such a heavy workload that he did last year. I think he'll end up getting hurt, and it's just going to be a long season for the Giants.
So here's the crazy thing. So in our Empire Sports Fantasy Football League, I ended up getting Danny Dimes.
Ooh.
So I'm going to need Danny Dimes to actually be better than what I think he's going to be. So I'm going to need that from Danny Dimes. So I'm going to need a little bit more than the 15-5. Just spruce it up a little bit, like hit 20 touchdown passes. And
hey, according to Freddie, excellent choice. Remember, 3,000 yards, 30 touchdown, and like 1,500 rushing yards, according to Freddie.
I mean, that's great. Then trade me your quarterback for Danny Dimes.
I'm all right. I'll pass on that one.
Exactly. I'm gonna go under. I just think that they were kind of like cardiac kids last year, and they won a lot of really close games. And I think Brian Daboll did a great job. And I'm not saying he won't do a good job this year, but like I've said before in previous shows, they would need him to be – I'm talking about Danny Dimes. He would need to be better than he was last year for them to repeat the record they had last year. And I don't know if he's going to be better.
Well, the New York Jets, the darling of the NFL.
Yes, they
are. 9.5 wins, over under.
Oh, I'm going over. I'm not the biggest Jet fan, but I think they're a 10-win team. But I'll say this. You pointed this out, Chris. Let them get off to a slow start, and that will just continue to roll because Aaron, nice Aaron, will go back to being normal Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets are so fun to me because I see a scenario in which they're like barely a 500 team, but I'm going to stick with my prediction. They're over and they win the division and they win 13 games.
Wow, that's right. You're the one that said that. You did the hot take.
Oh yeah.
Now,
Brett, the Philadelphia Eagles, 11.5 wins.
As long as they stay healthy, I think they're easily over. I still think they're the deepest team in the NFL. That offense is absolutely insane with Smith, Brown, and Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts to build around. Yeah, I think they easily get over.
I think they're over as well. I watch the Eagles just as a fan of the NFL because that offense is fun. Jalen Hurts is fun to watch, and they've got nothing but dogs on the defensive side of the football. Never mind the front seven. You've got Slay and company in the back. There are problems. As long as they stay healthy, they're the class of the NFC by far.
Mo, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 8.5 wins.
I'm going over because I expect there to be another leap in Kenny Pickett's development. I also go over because I trust in Mike Tomlin.
I'm going to go over as well because at this point, betting against Mike Tomlin just seems like the wrong move. But also that defense still elite. So Pickens, in all reality, he doesn't need to do too much. He just can't turn the ball over and lose the game for them, honestly. but I expect another big jump. So I'm thinking this is a 9-win team.
Brett, the San Francisco 49ers, 10.5 wins. Over under.
Oh, hold on. I got to go to the casino real quick. I got to smash that under. I think that's an easy under. Unfortunate, sorry, Mo, but I think that's an under. You have a quarterback who could hardly push the ball down the field, coming off a UCL surgery. So I think it's under.
I think we're a 10-win team, so I'm going to hold at 10. I do have concern about the quarterback position, but the star of the Niners, at least in recent years, it hadn't been the quarterback. The quarterback has been a complimentary player, so I just need Purdy or whoever to be complimentary to the run game and the defense.
Well, the Seattle Seahawks, 9.5 wins.
You know what? I'm gonna go over. I think they're a pretty good team. When you look at Geno and what he's become, and I hope he can sustain it. He's got explosive talent on the outside, solid run game. Really, with Seattle, you just wonder if the defense can be consistent.
I'll take the over as well on the Seahawks.
Brett, how about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? 6.5. Baker time.
Oh, I'm gonna go under. I think that quarterback play is gonna kill them. And they didn't have a run game last year, and now they're out without Jensen this year. I just don't think that this is gonna be a very good team to watch. I don't think it's gonna be a very fun team to watch either.
I don't think it's gonna be a good team, but it might be a fun team to watch in a bad way. It might be. I think it's gonna be some entertaining stuff going on in Tampa Bay. I'm definitely taking the under in Baker time.
Tennessee Titans, Mo, 7.5 wins.
You know what? This is for jury. I'm going to go over. I'm going to say King, Henry, and company. I think they get 9 wins.
Yeah, I think they have enough talent to go over. With Henry, they can control the clock, mixing a little play action there with Nuke. I think they go over.
And then my favorite bet, I'm smashing the over on this one. The Washington Commanders, 6.5 wins.
I'm going over.
Yeah,
I'm going over. I've always loved the receiving core, but if Sam Howell is solid, if he's really good, if he takes another step in his progression to go with that receiving core, they're going to be fun to watch, and
with
they might
defense?
they're going to be sneaky.
Defense.
They've already got one of the top defenses. Right, that front four, they're one of the few teams that can get to your quarterback without blitzing.
I agree. I'll take the over. Sam Howell, all he's got to do is keep the offense on the field long enough to give that defense a breather, so they're not out there constantly. And if they do that, then yeah, this is easily going to be an over.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the morning show this morning. We are days away from week 1 of the NFL season. We got more football coverage throughout the rest of the week here on the morning show. Thank you to everyone who was out there in our comments today. Eric, Anthony, Gene, all coming with some pretty hot takes this morning. Thank you so much to JG, who joined us earlier on the show. Brett, who joined us later here on the show. Mo, wrap us up.
Hey, thanks for everybody that's in the chat, that supports the show, that supports Empire Sports Network. Thanks for listening. Check out all the great content we have. Empire Sports Network. Check out the Empire.
We will be back here tomorrow morning, getting you off to the right start every morning here on Sports Empire Network with the morning show with Chris and Mo. So until then, we'll see you.